Welcome back to Cager TV, home of the Cagers, everything Cager basketball. Well, in this segment, I want to talk a little bit about what we do each week for our character development. This year, we have I've gone in a direction that I wanted to break down the code. If you go to www.cagerhoops.com, you can see there's a space on there you can click, and it'll be you can find what the code is, the 8-point code that we have. And I discussed that a little bit in a previous video, but that's what we do each week. We're breaking down one part of the code, one aspect. And I know it's going to be hard to see, but I give the kids these little papers here, and we discuss them in our team time at the beginning of each week, our first practice of that particular week. Now, I only have 1 or 2 practices a week, so it's tough to do. In a real setting with a 5-day week and a regular practice schedule and games like a normal high school would be, coaches, if you're listening, you can break this down in a little part each week. So what it's made up of is a little sheet. We define what the code is, and this is the first one. We list with eyes and ears. We define each word. This year I just define each word, just do something different. The positives and negatives of listening with eyes and ears, what that looks like. And then I would describe what listening is. Who in your life has demonstrated good listening skills? Where does Cager basketball demand listening with eyes and ears? And where does a game of life demand men, because I deal with men, to be good listeners? And then at the bottom, I give them an assignment. And this particular week, I gave them an assignment when we did this a couple weeks back, was they had to sit and listen to somebody for 10 minutes. Now, I think that's a crazy assignment, but it's hard for people to sit and listen for 10 minutes. I say it could be your girlfriend, it could be your mom, it could be your sister or brother, an aunt, someone at your church, someone at school. Just sit and listen to them and be engaged. Give some head nods and ask questions about what they're talking about. Ask them to explain in further detail. So that's just one of the things that we do each week. And so this week we're actually on. We're responsible for our actions. And so many times in today's world, people play the blame game. They point fingers. And when I was a kid, they said if you point your finger, remember you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So people always blame. They'll blame this and blame that. Look at our Congress. They'll blame the Republicans, blame the Democrats, blame President Trump, blame Nancy Pelosi, blame this, blame that. Well, quit blaming. Let's be responsible for our actions, in good and bad. Especially, when we do something bad, own it. I tell the kids to own it. You do something bad, own it. Don't point at someone else. It's their fault. Own that, whatever you did. When you do something good, own it. Hey, I did a great thing. Not saying you boast, but I did that. That was a good thing, and you move on. So that's what we do each week, and we're going to go down through here, and by the end of our season, we'll be hit all 8 areas of the code. And my goal is that these young men would go off into life, and some of these principles come back to them. I had a kid a couple years ago played for me. He was a small Christian school All-American for the National Christian School Athletic Association, and he was an All-American, first team All-American for me. A real good player, about 1,500 points and 1,000 rebounds in his career. He had a great career, and a year or so after he got out, he called me on the phone. He said, "Hey, Coach," he said, "I've got to tell you, everything you talked about in your character and with the code, I apply that every day in my working life. And as a coach, that's the reward. Money can't buy that. Money can't buy a change in kids' heart and a change in kids' actions. And his kid's going to be very successful someday. He puts those principles into practice, and those are the types of things that coaches that you want your kids to come back and tell you, hey, I learned this in practice and all that. But that's one example of a kid who put into practice the code. And I think it's super important that we do that. And this year's group, the last 3 games, we have put in the first 3 aspects of our code. We listen with eyes and ears, we run on the floor, and we are on time for everything. We have put that into practice on the court during the game. And it has been a lot of fun to watch this group come together. So I'm hoping, this week as we go forward, we'll be responsible for our actions, and we'll put that on display on the court, whether it be with referees or coaches or however they can be responsible. I hope they just own it. So that's kind of what we do. It's a great thing. More about the curriculum, you can buy my book. It's online. Character Code: The Cager Way. I wrote that a couple years ago. If you go to Adam Taylor Basketball, powered by Adam Taylor, if you go to his website, you'll be able to purchase it there. So it's a great book. It's a great resource. There's many ways to skin a cat, as the saying is. There's a lot of ways to implement character. This is just one way. It's been effective for me. This is what we do at Cager Basketball. That's what kind of sets us apart from any other program in the area, any other high school program that tries to do this. We do it a little bit differently, and we do it pretty well. So anyway, that's kind of what we do with the code and how we try to implement that in practices and games. And go to our website. Again, you can look at the code online at the www.cagerhoops.com. Go Cagers.